Immortal Empires has brought a ton of changes to the game, but one of the biggest ones is the introduction of new endgame scenarios. Now this is a totally original idea where in the latest stages of a campaign, a cataclysmic event can occur that puts all factions left on the map into a crisis of sorts. Where'd that come from? Did anybody drop this? So I know there are 5 of these in game at the moment, so I thought I'd go through and explain each one, what they do, and I can prepare yourself to be able to beat them. Also, if you've been to this channel before, especially in the last couple of weeks, you're probably thinking, hey, where are all the main guides at? I'm moving main guides to every single Friday, and then a different type of video is going to come out Monday, probably still relate to Warhammer 3 or whatever strategy game is appealing to me at that time, so you might see a little bit of Stellaris and stuff here and there. I also made a big post about this on the Discord a couple of days ago, which you should definitely join, by the way. It's the best way to stay up to date with all the news to do with the channel and content, and also get in contact with me if you really want, or if you need some help on any games, really please do join the Discord, it's a great place to be. Also subscribe. Yeah, there's no segue here, I'm just straight up asking if you wouldn't mind helping me get to 50k by then, yeah, really appreciate it. Anywho, into the content now. So just before we get into the end games themselves, we need to talk about the most exciting part of any campaign, really, and that is the settings. So once you've chosen your lord and faction, you can head to the settings tab to change a bunch of stuff like difficulty, battle settings, auto saving, and of course endgame scenarios. By default, they'll trigger either between turn 100 and turn 150, and you'll get a 10-turn warning that they're coming, or upon you achieving a long campaign victory, so whichever comes first. You can drag the turn slider around to make it happen as early as 10 turns or as late as 500. Lord, does anyone actually play that long? You can also extend the warning or turn it off altogether if you want some real chaos. You can change the difficulty from 1/4 to double the default. I'd recommend trying the default settings for each one of these before diving in to fiddle with all the settings to make sure you're setting the right level of challenge for yourself. And if you want to know what the default settings are, I'm going to show you in this video. So when choosing the endgame, you can take as many as you want, but only one of them can occur at a time. So first up to bat, we have the Black Pyramid. This by default spawns 8 armies surrounding the Black Pyramid of Nagash, and they are pretty bloody stacked. Each is led by a lord on a War Sphinx mount and is packed with high-tier infantry, cav, chariots, and of course, monsters and constructs. Of course, if your faction isn't really close to this one, then you'll have quite a while before you need to worry about them. But if you're one of the lucky souls now to be living in the desert/badlands area, yeah, you're probably going to start swaying. To beat this one and achieve ultimate campaign victory, you need to totally eliminate the faction, which means you're going to need to destroy all of these armies and take the settlement to get the dub. My best advice for this one is to start building up armies with as much anti-large and missile units as you can, since they'll do great versus these fat stacks. Also, any fire magic will be great for melting skellies and punishing the pesky undead. If you own the settlement, and this goes for pretty much all the scenarios, it doesn't make a difference. The armies are going to spawn there all the same, so if I were you in that settlement, I'd start chuckling because, haha, you're in danger. Next up, we have a grudge too far. This causes every single dwarf clan on the map to declare war on you, which itself is pretty scary as the dwarves are one of the hardest factions to take out in the game because they're just so tanky and defensive. On top of this, there is also a bunch of armies that spawn outside Karaza Karak, a very elite dwarf unit, so even if you can take out the rest, these armies are going to make taking this stronghold a huge challenge, and if you have it already, you won't for very much longer. The other dwarf clans also all shoot up in strength rankings, so it's safe to assume they're also getting similar armies spawning. What this boils down to is that the map is going to be more full of short, angry men than the Great Book of Grudge's house. This one is going to hurt pretty much wherever you are, as the dwarves are all across the map and will take a disliking to you and start making moves to take you out. The best course of action for beating this one is to stick to the central mountain, since that's where the highest concentration of dwarven clans is. Work your way up and down it and take out factions and capitals with as much fast-moving, armor-piercing as you can to get around the turtle playstyle of the Dawit and their insane armor and ranged firepower. Of course, if we have the dwarves going crazy, it only makes sense that we have the greenskins going crazy with the biggest war. This is pretty similar to the dwarves, but instead it's every greenskin main faction declaring war on you all at once and getting some big boosts. 4 full stacks appeared around Grimgor settlements, and judging from the power rankings, the other tribes will get some similar assistance. This one's only going to get worse if any of these factions trigger a new war, as you will now definitely be the target of all those armies, and they are going to end up packed with 2 stacks of high tier units each, making them very hard to stop. If you're not in the Badlands/Wasteland area, this one isn't going to be as bad, but the concentration in such a small area means they're going to be even harder to stop once you reach them. The key to taking out greenskins is halting their momentum, both in battle and in combat. Make some very wide and some very tough front lines, and support them with the best armor-piercing missiles you can to take out their sturdy front lines and powerful monsters. Your approach, of course, depends on where your faction is on the map. I would try to make my way through the mountains first, since their large numbers of armies will struggle to bunch together and give you a better chance at taking them on one-on-one rather than on an open field. Plus, if they use the underways to get to you, there's a chance you can intercept and take out armies at one at a time. Next up, we have the Wild Hunt, and this one unsurprisingly causes every single Wood Elf faction to gain a ton of armies, declare war on the player, and require them to be taken out before you can claim victory. These armies are filled with a ton of late game high tier units, so are going to be a pain to deal with for most factions with the raw dog missile power of the Wood Elves. Of course, they are also spread throughout the map, so unless you're over in Cathay, you're going to be pretty close to these guys no matter who you're playing. The area around the Oak of Ages is obviously the highest danger zone, so I'd probably take that on once you have several armies ready to take on the absurd levels of defense that they have. Build armies to either be tough enough to withstand missile fire for a long period of time, or fast enough that you can get onto their missile units before they can do any meaningful damage. Also, watch out for their monsters, so bring a bunch of ranged and anti-large. In fact, just bring armies with every single type of unit that you possibly can, because honestly, the Wood Elf one is pretty damn scary. Taking that Oak of Ages, it's just going to look like the final battle scene of Avatar. And we all know who won that. It was the blue people, or in this case, the green people. Last but not least, we have the Vampiric Ascension, and unsurprisingly, this beefs up the vampire factions on the map, with every legendary Lord faction shooting up in the power rankings and spawning in 5 armies chock full of late game units. These appear outside their starting settlements, and it doesn't matter if you wiped them out previously, they'll just rise again. The main danger area for this is essentially the Empire, since they have 3 in such close proximity, but the Badlands area is not the greatest, with Manfred in the south and the Von Carsteins up north. The safest places to be for this one are in the far north and basically the entire west of the map, since there are no clans too far outside of the old world with the exception of Helman. Your best bet for taking out the vampire armies is to never let them land a hit. Bring as much range as you can fire onto them with as much pressure as you can. They have no range of their own, so will have to come to you, giving you time to take them apart. Of course, watch out for flying and other fast units, as they can shut down this strat pretty damn quick. But if you keep everything safe, this is probably one of the easier armies to take out, as long as you don't run out of ammo. That is every endgame explained. Let me know in the comments below which one is your favourite, or which one scares you the most. Personally, the greenskins just seem so bloody terrifying because they are so strong in combat, and if they get war, it's just going to be a nightmare to deal with. If you enjoyed this video and or found it useful, then maybe leave it a like, and of course consider subscribing. Hoping to hit 50k by the end of the year, and I would really appreciate it if you could help me. If you really enjoy the content and want to support it directly, consider becoming a member on YouTube or a patron on the Patreon. Doing so gets you early insights into future content, increased voting power, discounts on merch, as well as shoutouts at the end of videos, just like Henry Tucker for his support at the Officers tier. Thank you to all supporters. One last thank you for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.